Welcome to xMatters Demo Days. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kerin Munro, Senior Director of Customer Success here at xMatters, and I'm really excited to show you some of the latest and greatest features in our most recent release, Lunar Lander. If you've got any questions or comments throughout today's webinar, we've got the chat area open for you. Today's session is intended for xMatters customers or prospective customers, and is subject to all published fair use policies and other terms and conditions. If you'd like more information, you can find it on our site under the policy page. Today, I'm joined by one of my favorite experts to work with, Product Manager Dan Reich. He's spent more than 10 years in the software industry with his latest 5 here at xMatters. Dan heads up our product development teams with a focus on making integrations easier for our customers. In today's Demo Days webinar, we're celebrating our latest release, Lunar Lander. This was Atari's first vector-based game, which tests your skills at safely landing a lunar module on the surface of the moon. But don't be fooled by its simple black and white graphics. This game's most difficult play mode realistically depicts the challenge of landing an actual spaceship. This is a game I was never good at, and luckily for me and others who played the game, if things were going poorly, you could always rely on the handy abort button to max the thrusters, straighten the module, and stop it from crashing. Our Lunar Lander release is loaded with enhancements to support your incident management processes, everything short of that big red abort button. So let's take a look at how we approach the features in this release. No doubt, many of you share the burden when it comes to resolving issues. In fact, our 2020 State of Automation and Incident Management report, we found that 72% of teams spend at least half of their time resolving issues, with over a quarter of them spending 80% of their time on issue resolution. If you just think about that for a second, that's more than half of your work time being consumed in resolving issues. This is time that's being taken away from innovation and new feature production for your customers. When companies streamline their issue resolution processes, they can deliver exceptional service reliability as well as remarkable customer experiences. In a recent survey, technical teams from C-level to practitioners listed automation as a top priority for their organizations in 2021. Almost all, around 95%, believe automation is critical to service reliability. Our latest release centers on new functionality to make automating incident response and resolution easier and faster. This is accomplished through new flow designer triggers for more than 20 apps, new built-in workflows and automation steps, and better collaboration in chat tools with stakeholders. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dan, and so he can give you a walkthrough of our latest features.
Thanks, Kerin. Our Lunar Lander release is packed full of features to help teams of all sizes work towards the goals of uptime, maintaining SLIs and SLOs, and putting out more releases and features while ensuring current systems don't break. Today, we're going to start off in xMatters Flow Designer. If you haven't seen Flow Designer before, I highly recommend the Codeless Automation Demo Day session that's up on our YouTube channel. The link is going to be posted into the chat now. But let's dive straight into the Triggers tab in our Flow Designer palette here on the right. We've added lots of new triggers to our app section because we want to make it as easy as possible for you to integrate the tools your organization is already using to monitor key services and infrastructure. Simply drag and drop the trigger onto a flow canvas, and it's ready for you to start building out your workflows. As a product manager and former engineering manager, or team lead, I know it's important for development teams to maintain their release velocity. When your development and testing pipeline has a problem, you want to resolve it as quickly as possible to decrease any delays. For example, let's say you are using BlazeMeter API monitoring to proactively monitor that your APIs are performing at expected levels of throughput, accuracy, and performance. When BlazeMeter detects a problem, you may want to notify engineers who are on call to triage and resolve any issues. To start connecting your tools to xMatters, you can easily drag a BlazeMeter API trigger onto your canvas. Once we save the workflow, we can open the trigger step, and you're presented with a webhook URL that can be used to set up the connection with BlazeMeter. Just follow a few easy steps within BlazeMeter. From there, we can switch to our Tools tab and drag in a Create Alert step. Connect it to the BlazeMeter trigger, and I'm going to open it up. Our Codeless Automation Demo Days covers this in more detail, but you can see how we can define every aspect of that alert, from handling and overrides, choosing which devices you want to be notified. Things are a little bit slow for me apparently today. The curse of the live demo. Here we go. You can also configure response options. And then finally on the Setup tab, you can define message content, who should receive it, and you can link it to an incident through the incident ID input. Speaking of incident linking, you might want an alert to automatically create an incident as part of the process. Of course, not every blaze meter signal requires a critical incident to be created. So let's look at a few steps that I've pre-configured to save time, though all the steps are available in the Tools tab. So I've got them here. I'm going to connect it and use auto layout. So here you can see the new map incident severity step, which combined with our switch step allows you to route the alert down to a number of different paths based on the severity. In this case, I'm using blaze meter signal outputs to calculate an xMatters severity and have chosen to initiate an incident only when critical or high values are detected. The map incident severity step makes it easy to normalize data where tools have different terms for severity or priority. So you can map them through to the xMatters severity levels. Now, we could continue to build out this flow to match our process, such as posting the alert details to a chat tool, but you're busy people, and we get that. So we've actually packaged everything you see here up into our built-in workflows. So I'll take you there. So here we are on the workflow templates page, and you can see an entire library of applications to integrate with xMatters. For the sake of simplicity, let's use blaze meter again. So on this page, we can give our workflow a name and install it. Behind the scenes, xMatters will work to create your workflow for you. So here, just as earlier, we can see that there's a trigger URL that we can copy for configuration on the blaze meter side. But this time, let's open the workflow. Navigate to our flow canvas. And we can see that xMatters has already built a starter workflow for us. Starting with the blaze meter signal, we'll be able to notify on-call users through the xMatters create event step. And then they're able to manually initiate an incident through a response option without having to log in or do anything like that. Again, using map incident severity to make sure that the incident is created with the appropriate severity. All that's done for me without me having to do any dragging and dropping myself. But I can also then use the apps palette to drag in a step, for example, the Microsoft Teams post message to channel step, which allows us to kind of keep collaboration going and work our process the way that we want to do it. Now, as this flow stands, you might be wondering what happens if blaze meter fires out lots of alerts in a very short space of time. If you've ever hooked up a monitoring tool to an incident platform, you're sometimes left with dozens or even hundreds of duplicate tickets caused by one monitoring tool. So for those of you who are already using xMatters, you're probably familiar with our event flood control feature, which aims to hold back duplicate notifications and events to allow your on-call teams to focus on restoring services rather than filtering through duplicate alerts or dealing with a melted phone. Well, we've brought that flood control feature into these triggers. The new flood control tab on a trigger allows you to configure how xMatters should detect a flood, and more importantly, what to do if a flood continues to occur. So we can set how many events and what period of time determine a flood, and then set a webhook to call if the flood continues after so many events or for so long. The webhook might be another trigger on an xMatters canvas, which could update an incident, post to a chat tool, send more notifications, or could even be to an external tool, perhaps the monitoring application itself with an action to silence the monitor for a period of time. So all of these features that we've discussed so far are available to all tiers of the xMatters product, including our free customers. So be sure to check them out. Now, along the way today, we've shown you glimpses of our incident management features, but let's have a look at the new features in the incident console today and how they tie in with your incident management process. Again, if you haven't seen our incident console before, check out our previous demo day session on adaptive incident management on YouTube. But here we can see that we have an incident that's already in progress, as we can see from the status. You might notice some usability changes here. First, to the description box, which now allows hyperlinks to be added, and I can click them and they'll open up in new tabs. On the subject of important links, our collaboration section, which not only houses links to Slack and Microsoft Teams channels, but can also let you dynamically add new channels and bridges on the fly, has also been improved. If you're using a collaboration tool we've not yet built into the product, you can now add that in as an other value. So if there's a war room open in WebEx, I can easily add the details of that so anyone joining the incident can see the link too. I'm going to quickly do that. We know it's important to your teams to have flexibility in which tools they can use. So hopefully this will help to bridge the gap and still allow you the benefit of the collaboration section while we work to add more and more tools to this list. Of course, another important component of the incident is communications. Now, you can already see there's a number of resolvers engaged in this incident, but what about stakeholders? the people consuming your service or potentially affected by a service outage. You now have the ability to add in individuals or groups of people to the incident as stakeholders. So I'll do that now. In this case, I want to add the API product owners so that they can be aware of what's going on with our API monitoring situation. Now, adding them is great, but I want to send them an update. Notice how key incident information is already populated, saving me the effort of copying and pasting things like status or summary. And I can also populate a message here. In this case, I'm going to skip that. Once I send, that update is sent via xMatters on delivery channels like email, push notification, and SMS to our selected stakeholders. But it doesn't just disappear into the ether. All stakeholder updates are recorded here in the incident timeline, so we can easily look back at previous updates before sending the next one. We've covered how Lunar Lander is making it easier to get monitoring tools connected into xMatters to alert you, and simplifying the process of starting an incident and managing updates. But identifying incidents and mitigating their impact through to resolution is only a part of the incident management process. So how can xMatters help you build continuous improvement into your incidents? For customers of the xMatters Advanced plan, you have access to the post-incident report once the incident is resolved. So I'm going to resolve things now. Again, when I'm resolving the incident, I can notify stakeholders about what's going on. Now that the incident is resolved, I can hit Create Post-Incident Report. This screen is all about helping you simplify the post-incident or post-mortem process. In addition to the timeline and report summary fields, we've now added the ability to easily log and record actions. So, need to note an action for someone to update a test script and link it to a Jira story? Done. Simply fill out the form and assign the action and click Save. So I'm going to do that now. And now we can see it and track it here in xMatters. If you're not sure who is involved in the incident, the contributors section helpfully identifies resolvers engaged in the incident, allowing you to easily pull them into a post-incident review if required. And as you're finalizing your post-incident report, the new status field allows you to set whether the report is ready for publishing or not, before then being able to export it and share around your organization. The export includes loads of important information, including how long each resolver was engaged during the incident, to help you recognize your on-call staff appropriately. And this is all just the tip of the iceberg in terms of features in this release. To find out more, simply click the Read the Overview button on the login page of your xMatters instance to see all the details. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Kerin.
Thanks, Dan. That was a great walkthrough. As you've just seen, xMatters Lunar Lander Release simplifies some of the key challenges organizations face integrating the tools you're already using with xMatters so you can speed up your issue resolution processes. Our workflow template library is growing in size and features with over 20 integration triggers and workflows added or improved in this release. We've made incident manage easier to automate with pre-configured flows and steps to map key properties like severity, and we've enhanced our stakeholder capabilities with a section on our incident console dedicated solely to their communications. So now that you've seen it, let's take some of your questions. Okay, Dan, so the first question that we've got, what does a typical incident workflow look like, and how much time does it actually take to set up?
Good question. So, I mean, a lot of this depends on your process flow. So what information do you need to communicate and which tools are involved? But for example, we very recently ran a demo day session where we let the audience pick a few tools, including a monitoring tool, an ITSM platform, and a chat tool. And we were able to get all of that ready within the 15 minutes. So it can be very simple, but it could also probably get complex depending on what your process looks like.
Awesome, thanks. This next question I was just reading as you were speaking and answering that last question. This is a question I know that our customer success managers get from customers because the customers don't want the management to become too overwhelming. And the question in the chat here is, what options are available to manage my team or the organization's workflows?
Okay, good question. So workflows, like many parts of the system, you can export them. So within exporting, you're able to then kind of manage branching them potentially and working with them in different environments like non-prod and staging environments. You can also control who can access and view and edit your flows. So We've been trying to design Flow Designer and many of the features of Lunar Lander to allow teams some form of controlled autonomy. So we want them to be able to do what they want to achieve their team's goals, but also when needed, they should be able to follow fixed processes within other teams, just according to what the rules are that you have within your organizations.
Lovely. And the last question that I see in the chat, okay, this is a long one, bear with me. You mentioned trigger flood control in your demo and how it can send a webhook when requests are suppressed. We typically just want to view and report suppressed events or notifications. And is there a way to do that with trigger flood control?
Probably should have mentioned this. Yes, so you can view trigger request suppressions in the signals report. So the signals report is a great place to go to find out different details, such as like when and why flows were triggered in xMatters, or maybe you want to investigate why a flow failed or why a specific flow was suppressed. So you can see that all there. It's also great because you can see a linked incident to a signal, so you're able to kind of get a better understanding of what's happening in your system and what's being automated. So yeah, check out the signals report, highly recommended.
Awesome. This is why I like working with you, Dan. You always have the answer. If you've enjoyed today's presentation and don't already have an instance, you can always sign up for one of our free xMatters instances at xmatters.com/free. If you're a current user and want to explore some of the features that Dan shared today, please feel free to reach out to your account manager or your customer success manager or our global support team. They're all ready to help. And if you found this webinar interesting, we have a lot more webinars that are scheduled every month. You can always sign up for them on our demo days page. We're also available. You can track us down online on any channel of choice, whether that's Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook. We share a lot more content on those mediums as well. So please feel free to reach out to us there because we'd love to connect. Thank you so much, Dan, for guiding us through the xMatters Lunar Lander release. And to all of our guests who joined today, thank you very much. This concludes today's Demo Days event. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.